whenever you're interacting with other people, because I always like to make these things specific, rather than discuss them in the general, we assume by default that every other person has approximately the same amount of free will that we do. But then we adjust that pretty rapidly on the fly. So like if you're on a bus and the bus is really crowded and somebody steps on your foot and bumps you, and then it happens again, you turn around, you're angry. But then if you see that the person has Down syndrome, you think, okay, diminished responsibility. And if you have any sense at all, you adjust your expectations of free will to fit the situation. You do that with children, you do that with older people. Like, free will is a funny thing because it's not unbounded. You have free will within the cards that you're dealt. It's like a poker game. You can play your cards, but you can't pick the cards. Okay, well, so we're good at delimiting our expectations of according to the situation. We do the same thing with our legal system. We don't assume absolute free will. We have a discussion about it. Someone says, well, I was horribly damaged. I was thrown against the wall 10 times by my father, and each time I had a concussion. It's like, okay, we should probably take that into account. We try to take things into account. Okay, so there's that. So we're sophisticated about our notions of free will. So then the next thing is, the most functional societies that humanity has ever constructed operate on the presumption that people have free will. And so I've traced that idea to some degree back to Mesopotamia and to Egypt. And the Egyptians, for example, had a god they knew as Horus, and Horus is the famous Egyptian eye, and the eye is the thing that pays attention. And Horus was the son of the corrupt king. Actually, he was the son of the king that was overthrown by his corrupt uncle. And that's really what every person is. Every person is the child of a society that's more corrupt than it should be. Okay, Egyptians worship Horus's eye. It was because Horus's eye could see and then take steps to improve. And so the Egyptians had figured out, embedded in their mythology, that there was a dynamic between the individual and the state. As the state was the corrupt father of the individual, but still the father, a necessary thing. And that the awake individual was for the corrupt state. It's bloody brilliant. It's like, it took them like 5,000 years to think that up. It's staggeringly brilliant. And that idea is built into Christianity. Like, Christ is definitely, you might say, the next step in the evolution of Horus. Well, those old stories treat people like they have the divine capacity to face chaos and generate order. And to me, that's more like how we think about each other. Are you driven by the past, or are you the thing that consistently faces a very large multitude of potential futures right in front of you, the potential of the future, and chooses the path that you take? We treat each other like that's what we're like. And I think our phenomenological experience is like that. It's like, here's a bunch of things that could be. Well, where do those things exist? Well, they exist in potential, whatever that is, the potential that we're always facing. And we decide which element of that potential we're going to bring into being. And that's what it looks like to me. And we treat each other that way. And worse than, or more telling than that, if someone doesn't act that way, you get mad at them. You say, look, what the hell's wrong with you? Why aren't you living up to your potential? And everyone knows what that means. And everybody thinks, well, you should be mad at that person because they're not living up to their potential. They're not grappling with the future like a responsive, awake consciousness. And, you know, the atheist types, the radical materialist types, they're always trying to get rid of consciousness, to reduce it to some manifestation of like a kind of a primordial dead matter. And it's not successful. You know, Dennett's book, Explaining Consciousness, his critics said, no, explaining consciousness away. And I read that book and I understood it too. And I thought the same thing. It's like, I'm perfect to see consciousness as a mystery that faces another mystery. Consciousness is the mystery that faces the mystery of potential and transforms that into actuality. And I believe we do that with every single choice we make, that our choices determine the destiny of the world. I truly believe that. That's what it looks like that to me. And it's been that, I can see the manifestations of that in my own life. You get nailed if you make a stupid decision, man. Because you're altering the structure of reality, and then it'll snap back and take you out.
Right,
so,
right.